I use several different kinds of technology in order to conduct research for my media product. For example, we use bubblers to create mind maps in order to display the main ideas of our local newspaper to ideas that I asked to give me feedback.
In the production stage, we used Photoshop, Quark, GIMP, and Scribus. These are all graphic software that allow you to create and edit images and text.
The advantage of Photoshop was that it was really useful in editing images, such as the one on our poster advert. Because the photograph was taken behind a screen, there were dirty finger marks on the plastic screen in front, so the image of the hockey looked dirty. To get rid of the marks, we duplicated the layer, inverting selected and clean areas of the image, and covered it on the dirty area. Then we could change the brightness and contrast of the small section to make it blend in with the rest of it. We could also blur the edges to help it blend in even more.
The disadvantages of Photoshop was that it wasn't very good for editing text. For example, when we were creating our masthead, we wanted to reduce the spaces between the characters. You can't do this on Photoshop, so we had to use Quark to create our mastheads. Another disadvantage is that we didn't have Photoshop at home, so we had to download GIMP instead. This wasn't that much of a problem, but we still had to learn how to use another program instead of just using one.
Overall, Photoshop was one of the most important tools in our media production. This enabled us to create more of our elements in a professional standard and quickly. The task at hand would not have been easy and successful if it wasn't without the use of Photoshop.
An advantage of Quark Express A is that it was really useful for laying out the text. We was able to change the gaps between sentences on our cover pages and second pages so that we could make it look more realistic. Also, Quark Express A allowed us to set guides so that we could make sure that the columns of text were lined up with one another. This is a lot easier than having to line them up yourself, as you usually find that you are a few pixels out.
A disadvantage of Quark is that you cannot edit images very well. For example, we couldn't change the brightness and contrast levels. We also found it hard to change the size of the images in Quark, as you could only scale the images to the boxes they were in. This made the images too wide or too narrow to fit in our template. We did eventually hang off it, but it's still more difficult than on Photoshop. An advantage of GIMP is that it is free, meaning I could use it at home. It also allowed us to save the images as a Photoshop document, PSD, filed so that we could continue it when we were at home. Whilst at college, also, I was able to almost edit anything, but I could on Photoshop as well as GIMP.
The disadvantage of GIMP 2 is that it was fairly hard to add small objects to an image, specifically in the adverts. This is because when a new layer is added, it is the size of the image that is created, which then makes it hard to scale as the small object is really small compared to its layer. We did, however, manage to crop the layer, which was really simple to do in the layer options that GIMP provides. This means that just one piece of software wasn't good enough to complete our project, and both pieces of software are essential to the design and completion of our project.
To take the photographs for our local newspaper, we used an SLR camera. It was really useful in taking photographs of the hockey match. We could put it in a sport mode, which takes a series of photographs, which then gave a larger section to choose from the photograph action. Another advantage of the SLR camera was it was allowed to take me high quality photographs, which was really useful for making the newspaper look realistic.
The disadvantage of the SLR camera, which was an EOS 500, was that sometimes the people who had used the camera beforehand hadn't charged it up, so we could only use it for a few minutes before we had to charge it up again. An advantage of the H2 handy mic we used was that you could see on the screen how loud yourself and the surroundings were before you actually started recording. This was useful so that when we start recording there wouldn't be any disturbances, or it wouldn't be too loud or quiet. There was also a headphone socket which allowed us to listen to our recording without having to load it onto the computer and listen to it from there.
There were hardly any disadvantages to the sound recorder we used, apart from where the diffuser wasn't available, in which case the sound quality was very reduced, making it sound tinny. During the post-production stage we used Adobe Audition to create and edit the radio trailer.
An advantage of Audition was that it was really easy to import sound files into the program, which you could then click and drop into your work as many times as you wanted. It also allowed us to change the volume levels of the sound files at whatever point we wanted, which was really useful for making the background noise at the start of the advert, then go quiet whilst the voiceovers were speaking, and then louder again when they finished. This was a lot better than only being able to change the volume of the entire file, which we would have been really fiddly to try and get the different parts quiet and the others louder. We use the scissor tool and the hard limiting tool to create our radio advert in Adobe Audition 1.5. We use the scissor tool to cut and stick together parts of the track that we needed. We use the hard limiting tool to increase the volume and the normalize to make the voiceover sound more clear. Dan Lapscott and Anthony Williams 2006 said that cheap software allows the audience to become the producer. We have shown this because we have been able to create a radio trailer thanks to cheap software like Adobe Audition 1.5.
A disadvantage of Audition was that it was only available at college, so we weren't able to carry on the work at home. It was also very limited, as every computer in the media department had it, so I had to book out and order it to use. To create our evaluation, we used multiple recorders. We used the handy mics, and we used a SteelSeries V2 gaming headset accompanied with Audacity to record our voices. This was very easy to use because it were all good quality and because both were easy to use and problem-free.
We also use Microsoft Word to write and edit our evaluation script. This is because it is the best desktop publishing software and it's easy to use. It also allowed the teacher to put notes in the column, which helped us improve our evaluation. We also used Windows Live Movie Maker to create our evaluation videos. An advantage of Windows Live Movie Maker is that it is really easy to edit the video clips with the sound files because it puts them together. A disadvantage of Windows Live Movie Maker to its predecessor, Windows Movie Maker, is that the new one doesn't allow you to narrate your videos directly from the program. Therefore, we had to record sound files using Audacity and then import them into Windows Live Movie Maker.
We used these softwares because they were simple yet high quality. The Windows Movie Maker we used was also free, so we could use it at home and speed up the creation of our evaluation. We also used the editing software computers. They are fast and therefore able to work with the huge high quality files that were required.
We also use YouTube to upload our evaluation videos to the internet and to our blog. YouTube is really useful for this because it's easy to use, it's cheap, and it can be used from anywhere as it's a Web 2.0 software. This meant we could use it at college and at home. It can also store file sizes up to 2 GB in length, so there isn't really a limit for how much we can do. Our evaluation was a collaboration of software, and without one it would not have been able to exist, or it would not have been as effective as it was. This is because every piece of software doesn't do everything. For example, Windows Live Movie Maker cannot create a narration, so you have to create one in Audacity and then import it from there. You also cannot record the entire screen, which then meant that I had to use Cam Studio in order to record myself using different pieces of software such as Quark, Express 8 and GIMP 2.